Hey everyone, my name is Siko and welcome to the Siko Music Talk. Today our guest is Joe Strauss Jr. Joe Strauss, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. We're glad to be here. Thanks for having me here.
So why don't we take it from where things are boiling up right now in the country? What are your thoughts about what's going on in the world right now with the COVID-19?
Well, I guess like most people, there is a lot of confusion that's going on, but I do know that it is a worldwide situation. And I think that it's just a time that everyone needs to either start paying some kind of attention to each other in order to make it be cohesive. I think nobody really knows what it is. I know that we hear the precautions and everything that have been brought up about how you should act and everything about it. We've always observed them, and I have a day job as well, and I've been out here most of the time. So I think that what's going on with a lot of the people getting in and out and not understanding is because with the way we see the world now more than we've ever seen it before. So you can look at television and you can see what they're telling you, but then you look out in your neighborhood and you see what's totally different. I think that's right now because of a misunderstanding. So we've always had flus, we've always had viruses. People come and people go. I mean, it's just a reality. So yeah. That's how I look at it. Be safe as you can, stay around people that you know, which you should have always been doing anyway, but just more what it's all about,
Yeah, wear a mask when you go outside and try to avoid any staying 6 feet away as well, everything, especially when the precautions have not been, met before that. Yeah, I totally understand with that. You were a bass player here in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. So what part of Kansas City were you born in?
Well, it's funny because at the time I was born, my family was living at 12th and Vine, my mother and father. We soon moved from there to 40th and Agnes after when I was 3 years old. And so I guess pretty much at that time, that was the middle of the city. The city hadn't quite shifted yet. Kansas City has made a couple of different shifts, flight to the suburbs, et cetera, et cetera. So that was kind of midtown at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess, I was church going. My mother, Pentecostal church, and father worked 2 or 3 jobs. And so, but started playing clarinet early before I started playing the bass. Actually, was what happened in Pentecostal church. They allow you to play instruments. So we used to, a friend of mine and I used to play little flutophones first, and went to clarinet, bass clarinet, and et cetera, until I was like about 16 when I started playing the bass guitar. And just liked it. A lot of it, the bass guitar was definitely picked up by ear, and so at that time, my father was a jazz lover. So we used to go down to the Musicians Foundation on 18th and Highland, where I got a chance to meet and play with a lot of the guys that were from the Count Basie band, and at the time, Milt Abel and some other guys were around. So that's kind of the early beginnings of my seeing the music there.
Yeah.
And when I was 16, as a matter of fact, I got this bass here, which I got from Quigley's Music. This is my baby, been there the whole time. My father bought it for me. We paid $250 for it, and I just made my payments because I was working at the time. It's Ampeg, it was the company that made that bass.
How old is that bass?
Okay, it's my understanding that it's made in 1969, and I bought it in 1972. And it's been around the world with me. I had it when I went to Namibia, Southern Africa, was over there with the bass, and I had it when I was living in St. Croix, wow, which I've recorded with Jimmy Hamilton and some other things. I did one thing at the Buccaneer Hotel. I think you have a CD, because back then we didn't have so many recordings, but that bass was there during that time,
So you went to Africa?
Yes. Well, it was really kind of weird, because the way I got to go to Africa is at the time I was playing with the band that we came out of St. Croix, and I was playing reggae, and the name of the band is Midnight. Okay, so a guy came to DC and said they were looking for bands, and they asked us to go, and so we're like, yeah, man, well, I'd love to go, because once again, this is another one of those trips that I never knew I was going to make, because most time in life, I've just kind of end up being somewhere all positive. I say nothing negative about anything that's ever happened in life. It's just experiences, situations. So they said, let's go. So he took us over there for New Year's Eve gig to play over there, and so we got our little cassettes. We made some cassettes and stuff ready to go over there, and so I took that bass as well, and so we went over there, got a chance to play in Africa for a few days, and came back, and so I continued to play with that band, on and from then on, and did some other recordings and stuff like that.
Yes.
And that was when I started playing this guitar. This is my other lifelong bass. I'm not a guy that a name dropper. But this is a Hohner Jack 5 bass, which I've never seen anybody else play a Hohner bass, but you know. And so now I'm back in Kansas City, playing jazz mostly, playing some reggae, but playing mostly jazz.
Yes. Yeah. So you've been playing so different style of music, such as gospel, blues, jazz, reggae. What's the biggest lesson you've been learning going through those different styles?
Well, I think for me, from the very beginning, playing the bass, like I say, first started playing it in church, in a gospel church, where, you know, in the middle of the church, you may get up and start going, and you playing the bass. And I went through all of that, and at the same time, my father was taking me down to the Musicians Foundation, where I was playing jazz, you know, with Jay McShann and a lot of those. I did some playing with him, and then Mel Table and those guys were still around Kansas City, so I was getting all that at the same time. And then I went to the university, conservatory out here, so all of the music was being infused, and then on the other side, I was playing with a band called Code 45. So all of them actually had all their infusions in my mind, which created what I consider a different sound. So that when you hear me play, if you know me, you know my sound, and it especially became prominent when I got to the reggae field, because that's when I was in St. Croix. And like I say, that was known, the band Midnight is the one that's been known around the world. My friend and brother, Von Benjamin, Eke Becky, I know I'm saying it wrong, but passed away last year, RIP. But it was a lifelong spiritual dream that we had along with that band. So, so I was always able, by the time I got to reggae, it was just kind of different because I never really followed reggae in the beginning to like know great reggae players, or I was just playing all the styles that I knew. And so my life journey just led me to be there at that moment for that collection of the band. We created 2 CDs. One was Unpolished, and the other one was Ross Make Peace. And it was a two-spirit of that whole band, you know, and of course they've gone on to do other things and all that. And I'm here, loving life and living in Kansas City, spreading the jazz around, playing, you know, some reggae when I can, you know, around town here. Jaw Lion is a reggae band that I perform with when I perform around town here.
I've been subbing for you.
I know. I don't know if you're gonna say that, yeah. But you do too. You're a bass player. I remember we met.
Yeah.
Just once again, a happenstance meeting. We just met, and I'm like, okay, and we rode together, and we talked about stuff. And you said, okay, I'm gonna do A, B, C, D. I'm like, yeah, okay, all right, but here you are. Here we are. You know.
Here we are.
We said we're gonna get together and do stuff. So
yeah,
life is good. I appreciate this opportunity, you know, to do this.
I appreciate you being here. I remember the first time we met. That was the Uptown Theater. You know, like we talked on the phone. Even by then, I've subbed for you, but I've never met you in person.
Right, I remember that.
When I met you, you were playing with David Bassi Trio.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
How did you come that you guys started playing together?
Well, Greg Richter, who's the piano player with that trio as well. I knew Greg since 1977. I met him when we were playing, we used to play at the place, Juanita owned the place, and for now, I can't remember the name of the place, but it's right there next to the Uptown, on Broadway there.
Yeah.
And so we used to play there, we used to jam over there, and Greg was around town and playing with different bands, and so for some reason we met and we got to friends really close early times. Our sons were close in age. My oldest son, Joseph Strauss III, who you know, who's a drummer. DJ Joe is around town.
Hey, DJ Joe.
Yeah, he's around. Yeah, he's around. So he's a drummer as well. But him and Greg's son, John Mark, got to know each other. So Greg and I played well together, and so it was good. So then he left and left playing drums and everything else, mostly because he was keyboard, but drums was his main instrument. And so he left and went to Florida. And we ended up in St. Croix. So he called me, and so I came down there, you know, and got a chance to play. So that's when I first got there, Norman Connors, some other guys were there. We got a chance to play with some other people, but Jimmy Hamilton is who he really was calling me for. You know, Jimmy Hamilton was clarinet and saxophone for Duke Ellington for 26 years. And he was retired living on St. Croix. So Greg and I got a chance to be with him and learn all the Ellington stuff. And so that was just everything that led into me before I even started playing reggae. So by the time I got to reggae, my style is not conventional because all these things had led me into that before. And I just kind of went into it like, well, you know, it sounds good. I had no idea that it took me back to kind of my gospel spiritual beginnings when I started playing, really started playing it when we started playing original music. Because, you know, a lot of the reggae music is a loud and hip, jump, run around, and it's okay. It was different style. It calls for different emotions.
Yes.
But once when we first started playing the midnight sound, everybody kept saying, "Man, it's too slow. It's too this and this." But I realized the spiritualness of it, and the power of the bass and drums. It was still that heartbeat and all the drums, and people kept telling me throughout the years what it meant. So that's kind of why I knew I was doing the right thing. Can't get away from it, you know.
Yeah, it's you know, playing different style is something. It switches your mind in a different way, because I'm saying that because I know it as well. You know, there were days that I was playing with Linda, the singer of Jal Ion. We used to play in a band together called Maganda. So early in the day, I would play with Alex Abramovich and Phoenix, and then I would play with a funk band after that gig, and then later on during the evening, I would go and play with Maganda, the reggae band. You know, so from Alex to Alex who plays more like Dixieland band, and then you jump into funk. You know, it switches even the action on the bass and everything. You know, how did you figure it out?
Well, it's like, because I've listened to so many different styles of music, like you say, like what you're talking about right now. When I was in St. Croix, Greg and I used to do that. Like we would play like maybe a quartet, like a Stevie Wonder-esque, George Benson, a lot of those kind of styles. Like you say, in the afternoon, then we would go to Buccaneer Hotel, two-step in, 60, 70, 80 years old, but nice hotel, and we do this, like you say, different styles. So I just always knew them. Greg and I, especially, like I say, I keep bringing his name up, because within our little, either we could do a duo or we do 3 or 4, whatever, but we played every kind of music that called for it. And so I would always hear it, and so I feel like I'm not a cop here of lines necessarily, but I'm a appreciator of style. So like a lot of times people would say, well, you know, you're not playing the bass line or whatever, just like so and so and so and so. And I'm like, well, you know, they have a CD over there if you want to hear what they play, because Joe Strauss is playing what Joe Strauss is feeling at the time, my interpretation of it. That's how I do it, you know. So sometimes it'll be now some songs that do require you play things closer to the things, you know, like certain things like Bob Marley's The Cap Fit and stuff like that, who I never really hear bass players playing them live, you know, stuff like that. But I mean, when you comes to the jazz thing, I could play a song for you 5 times the same night, it would not be the same song.
Yeah.
Or I can be exact, because of the fact that my discipline shows me that, like we say with Alex Abramovich, I play with him at the piano room, which I do every Monday night, 7 to 10 p.m. Here in Kansas City, Missouri, 84th and Warner Road. Yeah, and I played with Alex last night, and like you say, because he plays more of a Dixieland style, and I appreciate that as well. I appreciate it better. Like I said, the drummer was really nice last night. Ricky was playing there, but I appreciate that as well, because I like to, I don't know if it's a word, persicity of it all. I love to be able to just be exact. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, I mean, I can just swing in and be out there too, or even this way. But I mean, also, I can play all styles on either bass. I can play reggae on this bass, because mentally, I just adjust my hands. You know, most of my stuff is right here. My touch is right here. It doesn't matter whatever bass I pick up. If you give me 5 minutes, I'm gonna sound like Joe Strauss. It don't matter which bass it is, because I just have my certain sound. And I talked to a guy, I think the last couple of CDs I recorded, I asked them to, now that I got these live recordings, I'm gonna try to get them remastered to do something live, because I figured out that the way I play, I have a ghost sound. It sounds weird. It's like the way I play, when I play reggae especially, when they compress it, my sound comes up somewhere in between there, and it doesn't really get my live sound. So I'm working on trying to get something out there that does that actually gives it, you know, just like the old cassette. My cassette sound better than the CDs they have out here. Yeah. Yeah, just like for my sound. Yeah. You know, the sound that the people hear and that the people really start to love. You know, so a lot of time I think that technology teaches the people in that way. You know, and they don't get to get the full feeling. You know, not sitting there in the room feeling what was felt when it was played. That's how I look at it.
You're talking about sound. Miles Davis used to say it takes a long time to sound like yourself. Mm-hmm. How long did it take you?
I don't know. I thought I sounded like myself from the beginning, just because I'd had so much input from other things, and I never really. I mean, I heard different sounds, but I didn't really copy after anybody. So I would say that somebody, like people asked me in the early days, who do you listen to? I couldn't really say necessarily who I listened to, because like I say, I was playing gospel and stuff before. And so I heard the music, but I don't know that it would influence me by any one person or not. So I just feel like that from the very beginning, I was picking up, who I like. Now, in the jazz field, like I said, you had Mel Table around here, but older guys like Ray Brown would be. My father used to be an album lover, and so he used to make me sit down and listen. He'd have albums in the house. Ray Brown, Charles Mingus, Ron Carter, George Vivier, some other people, that I would hear them, and every now and then I would hear something they do, then I really liked Ray Brown, and a couple of things. He had a song, for those of you who don't know, there was a thing at one time called 8-track tape. So I used to have an 8-track tape with him playing with the Milt Jackson Quartet, where he did the Very Thought of You as a beginning thing, because they're bass players at that time. Milt Table has a song that he did also around here, Big Noise from Winnetka. He was very popular around Kansas City for the same reason. But these are, I just think that after I listen back to myself, like you say, I always played how I played, but I listened back years ago and I say my sound was always there. When I listen, it hasn't really changed. I'm not an etude player. I can play etudes. I can play scales and stuff when I play, but I don't play like it when I play live. I play whatever's coming from here at the moment. Which a lot of times I simplify it sometimes because sometimes you can be too smart for your audience. I don't ever want to be that, so that's how I go.
So we forgot to mention that you talked earlier about you went to college, and that was UMKC.
Was UMKC?
It's on your Facebook, actually.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
What did you learn from coming out of there? Because I'm trying to make the comparison between studying by yourself and studying at school. What did you learn at school?
I don't know really how much I learned at school. I mean, the thing was, okay, first of all, coming from public school, back I graduated in 1974, Westport High School, and the music program in those days, of course, they didn't teach us a lot of theory. Matter of fact, I didn't really have any theory. We could read the music, but then when you get there and they're talking about solfege and read this and do that, and so I had to take the theory class again. And so the main thing I learned is that a lot of stuff there for me personally, I don't know how much, I'd get some experience, like I took a piano class that I had to take because George Salisbury was there at the time, and he had me taking some techniques class and stuff like that. But it's in general, for me personally, I just think it's a whole total experience. I didn't pick one part of it out. The music itself, I played in the symphony, and at the time I was already performing jazz. And of course, one of the guys that was teaching some of the technique classes was a main jazz guy around town whose name will remain unknown. I took a technique class. We didn't get along too good, but a trombone techniques class I took, and he thought I was too fancy. So there's little stuff like that. I just thought that maybe I just kind of go on and start performing because the framework of certain things were there. But I mean, it was good as a general experience. I mean, I just think that everything is different for everybody, and I'm glad I had a chance, and I just kind of put into it what I got and take out of it in the same way. It was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, so what would you say now, about the whole scene of music in Kansas City?
Right now, of course, everything is closed.
Yeah.
But when I came back here in 2006, I noticed that UMKC was bringing out a lot more people that were playing jazz around town. I believe Bobby Watson has been there. I know him from way back again. Once again, somebody we would have known in the music field, but I know that other people were, and the UMKC guys were playing. I never seen so many bass players in Kansas City. I think that there are a lot of restaurants that I've saw before all this happened that were starting to do things. I was doing something with David Bassey every Thursday at the Ambassador, and they were doing stuff on Fridays here. But you still got some of the old stalwarts that are around here. So a lot of the other guys have passed on. So now it's the young guys. I don't really know any of them, and it's really funny to me because people always ask me, hey, do you know? No, I don't know them. Most of the guys I know that started me out in the beginning, Donald Cox and even Reggie Watkins and Horace Washington and Vince Bilardo and the guys that are really, those guys that moved on to the next realm. There were music people around here in the city now. So the music scene is tight. I mean, I noticed that with the expansion of a lot of the other smaller cities, you have South Liberty, B&B, Lee Summit, they all have their little small theaters, and they're starting to accommodate more people living out in their areas of town. So I believe that's changing the music scene. You know, we have 2 or 3 people booking everything. So it's hard to say. I mean, myself personally, at this moment, I'm doing live recordings from my driveway. I do Zoom recordings, I do Facebook Live, and I will continue to do them, you know, probably every couple of weeks, just kind of get out there and let people know different styles of things. And I'm doing also this pandemic opened my eyes up to another fact that there are a lot of people, as you know, a lot of time you're playing music, you invite people to your gig all the time. Even some of them you know are not coming. Even you've invited them 20 times, they're not coming. But every time they see you, Joe, where are you playing? So, you know, so I'm taking this opportunity also to do the live recordings and the videos. Because even some of them, even there are people, some older, some people at the church, some people don't believe in this, don't want to go there. So expand my own experience to people just to talk, because I believe that my music says something. And I believe that when people see me play, they get something out of it because I love it. And and every time you see me, you know that I love it. And so I think that there's something to be said for that as an entertainer. And so I think that the electronic media will allow me to go ahead and be able to expound upon that even better. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for you having me here.
Absolutely.
You know?
What is it that you love so much about music?
Because I love music because it is. It is. That's what I say. It's everywhere. Music is everywhere. I'm sitting there patting my foot right now. That's music. You know, you're sitting in the house. You know, your air conditioning pops on. There's music. Music is everywhere all the time. And I think that music has changed so much. Like as I say, I'll be 65 in February 8th. God bless. And so music has changed so much in my lifetime. It's like I can hear something, and I remember what was going on at that time. I mean, it's just changed right now. I mean, I would have to honestly say that. And no disrespect, but a lot of music now that's so canned and it's like programmed. But I remember I can go back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s, or even before that. When certain songs would come on, I say, okay, I remember. That's what I was doing then. That's what I was doing then, you know. And then those days, it helps you think about good or bad. You know, I remember when my father passed away in 1985. I came to Kansas City and was at the funeral, and I was okay, and I was good. I thought I was good until I was sitting at the Buccaneer Hotel with Jimmy Hamilton, and he started playing a song called That's All. I don't know that song. I never knew it. We started playing. I don't even know the words, but just how the song sounded, just to show you how you don't always have to know the words, as can be seen by a lot of time when you hear people singing a song, when they're singing the wrong words. Sometimes it's just a melody and a feeling. Mm-hmm. But the song was That's All, and I was playing That's All, That's All. And it could have been saying, that's all the food. It could have been saying, that's all the cars. It could have been saying, but just whatever the feeling and the timbre of the song, just let me say, okay, that's all, Joe. No matter what else you might think, you want, that's it. So music can do that to you. It can make you say, yeah, man, give me more. It can do that. And it can take you from one level of emotion to the other. You know, improve it all the time. They knew it a long time ago when you listen to the music. You know, when you listen to the music, dun, 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 you know what that is. You know, and so that's what I love about it, being able to take people through the different emotions of at that moment. That's why I love it so much.
Yeah, yeah. So, you are a grandpa.
Yeah, I might say a great grandpa. But don't tell nobody. Don't tell nobody. But I didn't do it all. I just started it out, so I can say, you know, yeah, I am. It's really funny because my father, like I say, who passed on, Joseph Strauss Sr. There's actually 6 Joseph Strausses, which are various, is all that. But yeah, I'll have. I'm a great grandpa. Sons, 5 grandchildren. I said wrong. 9 grandchildren, lots, and great grandchildren. Yeah, they're there, and so I'm glad to be able to see them and at such a young age. I mean, we were coming along, you know, a grandfather or a great grandfather as what I am nowadays. You know, would be like 80, 85, 90. So I'm thankful to be able to be healthy and young enough to be able to experience that and see the flourishing of my family, you know, and everybody. And they're just doing good. Doing good.
So is the whole family musical?
They all have some forms of music. They have a talent. I mean, if I go down the list, you can say, you know, like I say, my oldest son, Joseph, drummer, entrepreneur, magician, scientist. You know, Michael, his brother, who's 18, he sings and does acting and does debate. Tess, their sister, saxophone, plays all the instruments and sings. All the grandchildren, I can't even get into it. Matthew plays drums, Avery plays drums, Angelica dances, and these dances. EJ plays drums. He's also all the grands, and you know, and then it's insane. So music is everywhere, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. So Joe's mother's a singer. She's an opera singer. So you know,
Oh.
so the music on both sides it comes there. Yeah. So it's good.
Wow.
Yeah. So music, we can't get away from it.
It's in the blood.
Yeah, it's in the blood. I'm hoping that eventually Joseph and I will do something again, because one of the main reasons I came back here was to be able to do some things with him, you know, so long distance. But thank goodness for Facebook, because I don't have the energy to keep up with them. They do so much, and I'm just so proud all the time.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Hey, a couple of last questions.
Okay.
So now we know that everything is being affected by the COVID. You know, where do you think we're going now? Where do you think the music industry is going to be at after the COVID is over, supposedly?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna give you a big I don't know. I don't even have a thought. I don't know, because really the thing. What I see now is that before I started seeing a trend where it was good that with the internet and a lot of the stuff going on, that people were able to get their music out around to the world without being hampered by what it was before, where, you know, if you were only just a small part of everything. I think it's going to be more of that. I don't know how it's going to land, because all the different entities are fighting about how they can control this and that. But I do know that 10 years ago, even 10, I'll go 20 years, but 10 years ago, I remember guys that were telling me they were going to do the internet thing, and I was talking to them, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know, and they're doing all right now, you know. And so I see that musically, that's what the world is going to go to. It's more computer already. You know, a lot of the other live musicians, I'm thinking that a lot of us are going to be scrounging for gigs, especially as bass players. Because, you know, nowadays, since I stopped playing the bass in different bands I played in, everybody play the bass now. I'm like, so what's going on? Oh, he don't play drums anymore, he play the bass. Oh, he don't play keyboard, no, he play the bass. I'm like, what about me? You know, so I think that I will continue to play. And if it's only in my driveway, in my backyard for people, and I think there will always be people that want to see live music, at least as long as I'm around. So, I mean, that's the only thing I can say. That the other surrounding medias have already passed me by a long time ago. I mean, like I said, as I told you before, we were talking about me bringing in music and stuff that I'm recording. And I mean, the thing is, I've been recorded on a lot, but I never was the name, and I never really collected it like that. I just love to play. People, Joe, come and record. I'm recorded, so that's how life goes. But like I said, and so like I said, to answer your question, I don't really know. I don't know what it's going to be, because I also know that so many people are shut out of the music field in general, because the level is really tiny as far as who actually gets played and who gets heard, as opposed to all of us out here that's performing. So that's why I say that I think that all of us musicians like yourself and your band, other bands like it, we find our niche, find our people that like us, and that's how we're going to survive, you know, this musical madness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So last question. I know you have a day job, so you're one of those musicians who has a day job to support their art. What would be your advice? You know, you work for Xerox.
Right.
And what's your advice for young musicians who are coming out there and trying to do the music, trying to enter the music industry?
Well, you know, it's funny because I'm old school, so I've always had some kind of day job. There was parts of my time when I only played music in between life when I lived in St. Croix. Even then, I always had something like that. So the main thing I got to say is that be strong in something else first, or at the same time. If you can't make it parallel, if you can't be separate, because music is like being an athlete and other things like that. It seems very promising and very exciting when you're sitting home playing, but when they actually try to make it practical, try to make a living, you just got to make sure that you have some other things to support you. I mean, that's my real advice. Some people will think I'm crazy, but I don't tell you drop everything and be a musician necessarily. You know, you got to make sure that your surroundings, and make sure that you're ready to have people around you that support you at whatever level of musician you're trying to be, whether it's at a teenager, in your 30s or your 40s or 50s. You know, it's very important that you understand and surround yourself, your situation, with people who support what you do. And that's very important. And like I say, and just be true to what you do. You know, a lot of people, I mean, I think I'm very fortunate to be able to play so many different styles of music that I play, because I feel like I'm proficient pretty much in all of them, but some people specialize, and that's okay too. But just if you're gonna do that, then do that and be strong in that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Thank you for the advice, Joe. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate you. Again, that was very interesting.
Thank you so much for having me. We gotta keep on playing, right?
Yeah,
Embrace the
absolutely.
bass.
Hey,
Yeah.
amen.
Yeah.
You have a good day.
Yeah, thank you too. All right.